pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I now call the regular city council meeting to order. I think we want to revise the agenda and eliminate number 9. The city attorney give a further review to the contract that we have in regards to that. So I would entertain a motion to approve the amended agenda, deleting number 9.
So moved.
Second? Second. Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Number 4, public forum limited to agenda items only. Does anyone wish to address the council? There being none, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
And second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried 5-0. Kansas legislative update. Mr. John Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Well, thank you for coming.
I always like to come down here. I added a few cities by the next term. We'll have a few new cities, and I was down at one of them last week. Took I think about an hour to get through the first 3 items on the agenda, the approval of the expenditures. But anyway, I'm down here to just give you a legislative update. I can get these papers. I just want to look at the omnibus budget here, which is pretty thick. I don't think I want to go through that with you. But the legislature has adjourned. We're going back on the 23rd. This is what I'm calling the second veto session. Because we had one veto session. But because as of, I think it was 1:30 today, the Supreme Court heard the arguments on the redistricting of the congressional districts. In the morning they heard the Senate and the House districts one, and then the afternoon at 1:30. I hope they get a decision out prior to the 23rd, because if they find that it's not constitutional, the congressional districts is where the big hubbub is, that it'll give us an opportunity. And I would like, if they send it back to us, they give us some guidance. It's bad when you get a decision back from the Supreme Court that says, oh, it's not, start at it again. That can take several days. But we've had 78 days in the legislature out of our 90. We did keep some back in case we have to go back in on the congressional districting. It's mostly about the 3rd and 4th district. That's where the controversy lies. And a lawsuit had been filed, and it was heard in, in fact, it was the first time it's ever been heard in state court on congressional districts. So those they're federal office holders, not state office holders. And normally they're filed in federal court. This time, and the district court in Wyandotte County decided to hear. So, and it's up to the Supreme Court now. Whatever they decide, fine with me. I always respect the court's decision. But we've had a busy year. I'm just going to go through a few of the bills. One is our Capers bill. This year we had more money than we've ever had because we got about $6 billion from the federal government because of the pandemic. Some of that went out to counties and hopefully got to the cities, from the county commissioners to the cities, that you could spend for items that you need for the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. But we did have some additional money. We decided at the beginning of session, back in January, our priority should be to pay down debt for some of this extra money. So we put $1.2 billion into our Capers. Capers has an unfunded actuarial that 10 years ago, when I went to the legislature, was the 3rd worst in the nation. California, Illinois, and then it was Kansas. So we've really working on the unfunded actuarial. When I started in the legislature in 2013, it was funded at 56%, which is dangerously low. As of today, it's funded at 80%. So those Capers retirees can be very comfortable knowing that they're going to get their money for the rest of their life. So that's been we also paid off some additional bonds. We had a $700 million bond and we had a $35 million bond. They were A and C bonds on different things that the state had bonded. And we had $76 million, on building the Kansas Bureau of Investigation lab, the new lab that's in Topeka. We paid all those off. Then we decided we would do something, a little bit different. We have what's called a rainy day fund. We created it 2 years ago, but we never put any money in it. We all think that we're going to get into a recession in this country, and that means revenues will go down. So initially, we put $500 million into the rainy day fund. With the omnibus bill, we had additional funds, so we put another $250 million into the rainy day fund. In case we need it, if we hit a recession and revenues go down. So we feel very comfortable with that. We also have an ending balance of over $2 billion from that $6 million, plus the revenues have, after the pandemic, the economy is coming back. We're getting more, under our consensus revenue, our revenues have beat what we thought we would do. So that's been good. And that's enabled us to do something, to do a few other things that we needed to do. One was, of course, school funding. It's always been an issue for the last 10 years since I've been in the legislature. This year, we fully funded education more than the governor had asked for. The only area that I felt we kind of lacked in, and I raised this issue, is because we have a statute that says we should fund special education at 92%. We're funding it about 50%, but we put in that additional, I think, $350 million into special ed. I talked to my superintendents. I told them that would be something we need to work on, but we just didn't get it done. Passed a number of other, the other thing on education, which is, I think, pretty good. We have a 20 mil levy across the state on property taxes for school finance. The first $20,000 was exempt from taxation. We increased that to $40,000. So the first $40,000 will not be taxed now on your evaluation. And that sent something back to the property owners. The next area that we probably addressed was the food sales tax. We did pass a bill, I think it was the last day or two before we left, where it does cut the 6.5% sales tax to 4% next year, then down to 2%, and then completely. We passed this very similar bill in 2019. The governor vetoed it, and we couldn't override her veto. But had she signed that, we wouldn't have any food sales tax today. But of course, in 19, you didn't know about the pandemic. We all wish we had a crystal ball and could look to the future. And not knowing we were going to get all this extra federal money for the pandemic. So, but we did do something on the food sales tax. So we anticipate, that's going to go away gradually. But it's the right approach. Step down, see how the economy is going next year, and if it's going okay, it's already in the statute. It would drop again. And so it's going to cost us about $75 million after 5 years. It'll probably cost the state out of tax money $500 million. When it's fully implemented and our economy is back to where we think it should be. Passed a few other bills. One of my bills, I chair the Fed and State Committee, which is probably the most controversial committee there is to chair, because you do all public policy. We passed the Value Them Both Amendment last year. It comes on the ballot at the primary this year, and there's a big campaign out supporting that. It came out of my committee. And then we passed Johnson County, kind of a unique county, big county. Their commissioners are having they just don't get along with the sheriff. Sheriff's an independent office, however, there is a mechanism in play that they can have a vote and move the sheriff from an elected position to an appointed position. And it would be appointed by probably a commission that's like Raleigh County. Their commission would then appoint whoever the chief law enforcement officer of the county. The Sheriff's Association came to me, along with the Attorney General, Derek Smith, and I put together a HCR, House Concurrent Resolution, which is a constitutional amendment. It passed the House by more than 2/3, which is required, and it will be on the ballot in November of whether you want your sheriff to have a constitutional position, which means the public will always be able to vote for them and not be an appointed position. We passed a number of other things. I really like some of the stuff that we passed. One was the enacting and promoting the advancement of computer knowledge, which is the House Bill 2466, that says every school has to have a computer classes on site, not remotely. They have to actually do it on site. All the research has indicated that kids get it if they've got their hands on the computer and there's an instructor there. We put additional money into that to get that done. We passed a number of other things. Let me just go, the 988, which is the federal requirement to have a 988 program, which is suicide prevention. They want it nationwide. They initially brought the bill out, which I objected to, that they would put a 50-cent surcharge on every cell phone in the state of Kansas. So if you had a 12-year-old that has a cell phone, they would pay an additional 50 cents a month for that. Well, that's it. And so we kind of worked it out. We went in negotiation, and we decided since we have additional revenue, we would just pay that out of, we have a budget process. They can go to the budget committees, get it approved, comes appropriations, and we put it on the floor. So it's just not part of appropriation, but it's not an additional tax on every cell phone. Because some families, may have 5 or 6 cell phones if they got a number of kids. And we just thought that that was a tax that we did not need, particularly since we have funding available to put money into it. So there will be no tax on cell phones. With that, we go back to 23rd. The governor has vetoed a couple of things in the last week or so. I don't think any of those will be overridden, but you never know. But based on that, I would entertain any questions that the city commission has.
Any questions? That's very informative. That will be a statewide vote on for the sheriff,
It will be a statewide vote.
so we will be voting on it.
In November, it will be on the ballot in November. When I passed it out of the House, it was November date, that's what the Sheriff's Association and the Attorney General wanted. The Senate changed it to August of it. And I didn't think there was enough time for them to go out and tell the public what it was about.
Yeah.
So we went to conference committee, the Senate accepted the House version, and so we did conference committee and moved it back to November.
I got one.
Yes, sir.
Is the road program still strong?
It is. We don't take money out of KDOT. And I've been working with the county commissioners, and you may know this, trying to get a grant from the Department of Transportation to work on the road to Pilsen, what I've referred to as the Father Capon Road. I've met with them. I've had the county commissioners come up to Topeka. We've met with the Secretary of Transportation. I gave her 2 options. I said, you can either get us a grant or I'll get a bill introduced, and I think I can get it passed, which requires you to spend the money. It's about $3 million. And out of their budget, $3 million is discretionary. They've got a very large budget. So we're still meeting. The Secretary has informed us that they have another large fund that's for roads, but it's called economic development. I don't know what. But you can argue that that would be economic development for the city of Pilsen. So we're still in the hunt for the $3 million. And then what's good is the county is going to put some money in also. So that makes it more attractive to the state if you get the cities or the counties to do an agreement that they'll put some money in. and the county commissioners have agreed to do that. So I'm hoping to get that money, this year. It would probably be phased in over 2 years, or maybe 3, but eventually, we would like to have that hard surface road all the way out there. Okay.
Very good.
If there's nothing else, I've gotta go to the city commission down in Florence. So I'm not gonna stick around for the rest of the meeting, if that's okay?
No, that's
All right.
fine.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Number 7, citywide garage sale proposal.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council, for allowing us to come today. I have to laugh because I don't know how my attempt to get rid of my junk got me at a city council meeting. I mean, here we are, right, Andy? Yeah. That's true. Yeah. I guess back early spring, I had just posted a question on social media asking if anybody in Marion knew when, citywide garage sales were, and of course, nobody really did seem to know the answer, and, Danny and Jeremiah Lang just said, well, hey, let's just form this together and let's get this rolling for our city. And before we knew it, I think we ended up on the last weekend in April with 19 garage sales. And I know there was a local auction being held in town too. And I don't know about yours, but I know I had people from Newton that came to my garage sale, Peabody, Hillsborough, just people that I conversed with when they visited. So I guess their proposal, and I think there's something in your packets, asking if the city would ever consider establishing a date.
Yeah, our proposal is the last Friday and Saturday of April, each year. That way, people don't have to question and wonder when the citywide garage sales are gonna be. I know in the past, the city has also tried to coordinate, cleanup week around that, and so that would also affect you guys in that, it would establish a regular cleanup week for you guys. So that's why we're coming to you about it also. I know, talked with Roger, and I believe he talked with my husband also on kind of looking at when that overlaps with Easter, just because Easter moves. And I think in the next 20 years, it only overlaps with Easter weekend once.
Yeah,
But-
not in the next 10 years.
And not in the next 10 years. And, my thought with that is, when we do get to that point in the next 20 years, people, could decide if they wanna have
All my
a yard
junk will
sale.
be gone, so.
Yeah, they can decide if they wanna have an Easter weekend or not. So, but that would also give us ample time to try and promote it outside of Marion, to get people into Marion, and hopefully if we can get people into Marion that weekend, that would also help restaurants and other businesses in town could possibly coordinate with that weekend.
So you guys are gonna coordinate this every year?
Well, the hope is
Yeah.
that we'll work with you guys a little bit to coordinate it each year, because we could get it in the newsletter that comes out
Sure,
with our city bills and stuff like that.
sure.
What we did this year is, Shannon and my husband just said, message me if you want, to give me your address and what day and time. And then Jeremiah just typed up a list and we shared it on Facebook, is how we, kind of let people know where to go for the yard sales. And I don't know if that's something we could work with the city on gathering that information, or if that's something that we can do on Facebook again like we did last year.
I think you probably do either or, I think both of them would be fine. What about the advertising sign we have, can that be put on that?
Yeah, it's a community event, so.
Okay,
Okay.
Yeah. we need a vote?
We just need a motion and instruction to establish a citywide garage sale is last weekend in April. And then along with that, the city will set up cleanup week, schedule it with the county, so if you don't sell it on Saturday night, you put it on the curb.
Put it on the curb.
Next week.
Okay. I'll make a motion with what he said.
I second it.
Been moved seconded, any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That promotes our city quite a bit, and that's what we're looking for.
People come to town like mad.
Oh, yeah. We get other things from it too. Number 8, airport comprehensive design project. Okay?
Unless you guys wanna say anything.
Well, let's you start off.
Yeah, you start off.
Good evening. Apologize for looking a little underdressed, but I was helping out with the regional golf tournament today, so we just finished up with Zach was out there too. We just finished up just a little while ago, so. Over the last couple of years, we've been working on the airport master plan, that was funded through KDOT Aviation. And we've wrapped that up, and throughout that process, we met with the airport board, a lot to make sure that really it was their plan, you know, it's the city plan, the airport plan. So what we've got tonight is kind of an overview of that plan and how it's finished up. And if you guys got any questions, then I'll try to give you next steps of how we would proceed from here to make an attempt to make this plan come to fruition over some period of time. It would be nice to do it in the next 10 years, but everything that's on the list is more realistically 20 to 30 years out. And obviously that plan will change over time, but you know, we have the high priority list of stuff we'd like to try to get done in the next, say, 5 years, so.
I see, Darren, I guess it's okay, but I was surprised to see there's a hangar involved. I don't know, a new hangar being built in this.
We have in the plan, there's actually several new hangars proposed in the new plan. Yes, and I'll go over why we put those on the list.
I had nothing against it, I was just surprised to see it, I guess.
So currently you have, and some of these numbers are approximate. We don't have, somebody out there with a counter on the runway counting exactly how many planes land and take off. So we have to estimate that based on, fuel usage and what we do know goes in and out based on the pilots that are based here. And roughly what we're saying is we have about 6,200 operations per year from aircraft that are based here off the airport, and about another 1,400, a little over 1,400, that are planes that come here and land, based somewhere else that land here. And that's a total of roughly a little over 7,600 aircraft per year. Obviously, it's based on what type of aircraft can land at our airport, and so basically what we'd like to do, one of the very first projects, which KDOT Aviation gave us to buy some of that property on the north end a couple years ago to start moving in this direction. And so now what we'd like to do is start applying for money to purchase some more land on the south end with the hopes that the next big project is actually to replace our asphalt runway with a runway that's roughly in that, I think it's 4,000 foot is what we have down, dimension 4,000, 4,200 range. So what that will do is allow us to bring in the aircraft that are the size of the twin-engine King Airs. The reason that that's the choice aircraft is that there's a lot of categories of aircraft for small corporations, or actually even large corporations, even the small jets would be able to land at an airport that fits that classification. But the big thing is that would get us the medevac planes. Now, I know we have helicopters you can get in and out of here, and the vast majority of the quick turnarounds can time-wise make it into Wichita, into the trauma centers by rotary aircraft, helicopters, probably just as fast as fixed-wing aircraft. But we still would be nice to have that capability in case they need to go somewhere other than Wichita, or for other purposes, for medevac reasons, need to go somewhere else. So having that was one of KDOT's goals actually about 20 years ago when they really started plussing up the funding in the state of Kansas. They said, we wanted to have, the state of Kansas, wanted to take and have every airport in the state, or every person in the state within 30 miles of an airport that could handle a medevac airplane. And I know I should have got copies of this to everybody, but I didn't get them turned out. Oh.
Workstation.
Is it okay?
Current draft, and it was reappointed by the state in the 2016 comprehensive city plan.
Okay. And this is another map that we have, you can see there's lots of circles on there. This is all 115 airports in the state of Kansas. Not all 115 can handle, that type of aircraft, but they're all close. And so Marion fits in a hole that we're actually about 23 nautical miles from Harrington and about 23 nautical miles from the Newton Airport, since the Newton Airport sits out east of town. And so we are within 30 nautical miles of those two airports. But there's also a hole to the east of us, since Chase County doesn't have an airport. There's a hole between Marion County and Lyon County, where a airport that could handle that based in Marion could actually not only give double overlap coverage for our immediate area, but actually cover a hole that's currently still a hole on the state map. So those are all reasons, so not only economic development reasons of getting slightly larger aircraft in here, a better runway for the ag operations that are going on like today. A lot of ag operations were flown today. And then also, make it a little safer for our current, population of aircraft as well as travelers, and then the medevac. So those were all the kind of the reasons behind why the airport board said, hey, yes, this needs to be our next focus. Because once again, the state has backed it up and affirmed that this is the focus of theirs also, is to get us to that slightly next larger classification of airport, so.
That's still a 10% match?
Yes, correct.
Grant?
Right.
We can get.
Hey, with KDOT Aviation, every grant that you guys would be putting in for and eligible for would be a 90-10, 90 on their part, 10% on yours. So, yes. There is the slight possibility, and these rules are ever changing. But if we do meet, there are several criteria that we could possibly meet, and in the future actually apply to become a federal aviation FAA funded airport. It really, what it does is it provides you an annual allotment of match funds, that 90-10 match funds, to the airport every year. So you can do these smaller projects on a year-by-year basis to keep your airport moving. You're not having to just compete for KDOT aviation money like we do now. So that's an option as we move forward. The FAA is gonna wanna see that those number of flights are there. We already have enough based aircraft. It only takes 8. We have 17, plus 3 right off the airport, so 20, really. So we already meet the minimum number of aircraft. The next step is, yeah, we're the right distance away from other federally funded airports. So we've already met a couple of the criteria check marks. It's just now we have to prove to them that we have the operations counts that they really want to see and the need. So that would come as we do some of these KDOT aviation projects and show that need through going that route.